has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michele Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 254. What if your food told the truth? Hey, my veg your besties, it's Michele. And as I'm recording this, I'm coming to you off a wave, a string, a host of summer parties and Independence Day barbecues here in Rhode Island. And you know what? You know what often comes up when I'm in a big group? There have been some big community parties lately. Sometimes when I'm out in those big, omnivorous, carnivore, heavy environments, I'll get some version of, well, I have the right to eat animals. You're kind of infringing on that. Or, Michele, you kind of bum me out. Or sometimes the slightly more loving, thanks for not forcing your vegan agenda on the rest of us. And every time I hear something like that, I think, wow, you must never have listened to anything I've put out, because here on Veg Your Best, I'm just not in the business of taking away anyone's rights. I'm not in the business of forcing anything on anyone. And in fact, I sometimes get a little bit of pushback on that I'm not a little bit more assertive about some of these things. But what I am in the business of here, I think, is offering more opportunities to be aware, to claim our own agency and make our own choices, to be more clear about real life, about what's really here and what's hiding in plain sight. And this month, July, the same month that I have been surrounded by all kinds of barbecues and situations where people are almost performatively eating animal products in front of me. This month, July, as of July 1st, 2025, Switzerland introduced a new law. And it's a law that requires food labels to disclose whether animals were subjected to certain specific painful procedures prior to slaughter. And those include things like castration or tail docking, especially in pigs without anesthesia, dehorning in cows without anesthesia, force feeding ducks and geese for foie gras, and even the cutting of frogs' legs without anesthetic, and a few other things. And the law doesn't just apply to supermarkets. It actually includes restaurants, small businesses, and importers. So if you're serving foie gras in Zurich, you can't just call it, quote, artisanal. You are supposed to label it as coming from a force-fed animal. And I believe that Switzerland has outlawed force feeding for 40 or more years. So all these any kind of foie gras served in Switzerland would be imported. And, is that going to stop people from ordering it? Is it going to infringe on people's rights to buy and order what they want? Of course not. As far as I understand, of course not. But it will change something a little bit more subtle and something maybe more powerful. And that is a certain awareness. Because until now, I would say that the public has had what you might call the right not to know. The right not to know. This new law in Switzerland, it doesn't ban cruelty or slaughter or painful practices against animals, but it does ban a certain ignorance of it. In some ways, it kind of says if you're going to participate in the system, it's okay, but you need to know what that involves. And I think this is a little bit important, even if uncomfortable, because transparency, which is what I think this is, transparency, it's not about shaming anyone or about guilt. It's not about pushing a vegan agenda. I think it's simply about sunlight. You know what they say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So when we let light in, transparency, visibility in on systems, on supply chains, on truths, uncomfortable or not, we create conditions for something to improve, to heal, for something to grow. And I like to think that this Swiss law is not, well, it's not that it's the end of animal suffering, because for sure it's not. It's not even the beginning of the end of it, but it is a small, imperfect reform legally, and it still allows all the same activities. As far as I understand, all the same situations will occur. They just have to be disclosed. And I think there's something symbolically really significant about that. It affirms that there is harm, that foie gras isn't just a delicacy, that bacon isn't just breakfast, and that the egg industry is beautiful and harmless. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already at least have some curiosity about a more plant-forward life or a plant-based life, and maybe you've been on and off on the vegan wagon here and there. Maybe you've been trying to shift gently. Maybe you've never called yourself an activist, but you do care about being thoughtful and sustainable and kind. And especially for those of us in midlife and beyond, this is a law that shines a light on something we have historically never been encouraged to question, because we grew up in a culture where food just appeared. Most people my age were separated from hunter-gatherers, were separated from farmers, subsistence farmers, and we grew up in a culture where the food suddenly appeared in shrink-wrapped packages in supermarkets. And whereas people like my mom grew up on a farm and knew about the mother cow whose calf was taken, or the male chicks that were, gotten rid of, unquote. Now in factories, they're just ground up alive in macerating machines because they don't lay eggs. She knew about how animals were castrated or whose tails were docked. And yet we are now, with a little bit more visibility on these issues, we're allowed to question it. In fact, I'd argue that we're being called to be aware. And what's very interesting about Switzerland's law is that it doesn't force anyone to do anything differently, nothing. It just removes one of those ways of being in denial. It doesn't ask anyone to stop eating anything. It doesn't ask anyone to buy something different, or it just asks them to stop pretending that those animals didn't suffer before slaughter. So, coaching this week. My thoughts about coaching this week. What if we chose to know more about where our food comes from, where our products come from, even if there were no labels? What if every bite, every purchase becomes a small conversation, and not just about, we're so used to everything being about taste or nutrition or calories or convenience. But what if these food products that are on our shelves and in our pantries, what if they were also conversations about values, about compassion, about power and culture, and even about worker safety? I know. It can start to sound heavy, but I don't think it really has to. Here on Veggie Breast, we have never been about shame. We have never been about perfectionism. I didn't come to any of this until my 50s, right? I don't stand in judgment of anybody. It is about trying. It's about choosing again. It's about educating ourselves, getting curious, and asking, what does my best look like today? So, what would change if your government, where you live, your community, your area, your state, what if your government passed a law similar to Switzerland's? What if your grocery store required labels that read, painful mutilation performed without anesthesia, right next to the sandwich? Do you think that would change what people chose? I'm curious. I don't know the answer. Do you think it would change what you asked of yourself, or what you asked of your food providers, or the options you felt should be provided? And let's be honest, I don't see anything like this happening in the United States anytime soon. But you never know. I haven't predicted almost anything that's happened lately. So who knows? But if you want a listener challenge this week, I would say it's to pick one animal-based item in our fridges, in our pantries. Maybe you're already plant-based, but maybe you check your closet or your cosmetics drawer. And, Google it. How was it made? How did it get to you? What are the controversies about it? Just do like a little book report about it. Then ask yourself, does it match how I want to eat or live or care? And you do not have to change it right now. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for you to be perfect. There's no guilt here. It all starts with curiosity, because you can always veg your best. One meal, one label, one choice at a time. And there may well not be perfect alternatives for everything that you need right yet. But that doesn't mean we want to stay completely ignorant about it. Does it? Does it mean we want to be in complete denial about something? Because we can't fix what we refuse to see. And the truth is, there are so many of us, so many of these young people out there, brilliant, creative minds out there, so many brilliant minds working on ingenious solutions to enormous problems. But we won't be able to improve something that we don't see, or if we won't look at it. So this sunny month of July, there are these beautiful get-togethers with people getting together, having conversations, and celebrating this warm weather. Let's maybe consider looking and letting the sunlight in, and letting that sunlight, the transparency, clarify and draw attention to where our choices matter, what we can do as citizens, as family members. And thanks for listening, my Veggie Besties. I love that you come here every week and share a thought or two with me, and share the thoughts with other people that I share with you every week on Veg Your Best. So until next time, Veg Your Best.
Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.